All right, so welcome, Sally, Christine, to the Zoom room again. So just going to dive into our teaching for today. A little quote and message. Get the live stream going quickly, and then I'll share my screen. And we'll have a look at our lesson as well, which is very appropriate given our discussion. We recognize that my problems have been solved. Okay, so let's get that going. The screen. Okay, so Sally, if you can read. In fact, let's let Christine read it. Actually, so it's very appropriate given your share. And if you can read that for us, please.
The significant problems we face cannot be solved at the same level of thinking we were at when we created them.
So it's a wonderful quote by Albert Einstein, probably the world's most famous scientist. But it's not really a scientific quote, is it? It's actually a philosophical quote. It could easily have been written by a philosopher, which he arguably became much more of than a scientist in his later years. So after about 1930, if you know his history, he went to Princeton University, and in the last 25 years of his life, didn't scientifically do very much compared to the previous 25 years, which were enormously creative and productive. He produced the theory of relativity, special general theory of relativity, did work on photons and light, and yeah, so some really groundbreaking stuff. And then I think he started thinking. I think he was looking for a grand unified theory that would unify all the different forces. There are four forces in the universe that have been identified, to unify all of those into one system that made sense, and he never found it. But I think he started to do much more thinking, much more inquiry, and saying, so what is this really all about? And so becoming much more philosophical. And actually at the highest level, the lines between philosophy and science start to blur as one moves closer to the truth. So this quote expresses a fundamental truth about the cause of the problems we experience in our human condition, which is erroneous thinking. Significant problems we face cannot be solved at the same level of thinking. It acknowledges that there's levels of thinking which bind us into a level of experience. We looked at the integral model the other day. Let's see if I can bring that up. And you noticed the contour lines in this diagram. So those are representative of a level of awareness, which is and becomes a level of the mind, and it becomes a level of our experience. Things manifest, and once it's taking so long, apologies. And in the integral model, so if I blow it up, you can see the lines there. So at a certain level of thinking, let's say you're identified with the body and you believe that you're a body, and the body and body symptoms and body instincts are what govern you, then that's going to create a level of experience in the objective world. The way your body is, the way that your life works will be a reflection of that level. So Einstein's saying, well, the significant problems we face on the external level are a result, symptomatic of the problems on the internal level. And there's a direct connection. And the only way out of those problems is to raise our level. We've got to go up a level or two in order to solve the problems we've created at a certain level, because those problems are a direct result of that level of thinking. And so this course is all about raising our level of awareness or thinking to another level, so that then what shows up in the external, in the objective world, reflects that. And the miracle, the letting go of your mental and emotional attachment to something. So let's say you have an attachment to something on the level of form. Letting go of that attachment, you can see how that would free you, and it would bump you up a level or two, because you've just gone beyond that level, you've transcended that level. So forgiveness takes you up the levels, and then gives you a different experience of reality, so-called external reality in the exterior quadrants, because you've bumped yourself up on the mental, emotional level, in the internal higher subjective self. And that's logically, if you understand this model, that's going to be the best way to solve problems, isn't it? You try and address the problem on the level the problem was created, then you're just on the same level. And the problem actually isn't going to be fixed, because the problem is symptomatic of your thought system, level of thought. So you look at allopathic medicine, it's a classic example. You've got a problem because you identified with the body, you think you're a body, and now you try and solve that problem through a system based on body consciousness that's telling you your body is a machine, and if you go and you give it a drug or an operation or whatever the treatment is, that's going to fix it, then you haven't really resolved anything. Temporarily, that the symptom may go away, but you haven't actually resolved the problem, which is in the mind. The problem is you're identifying with a false self-concept. Okay, so let's tab back here. Where are we? So the solution to any problem lies in changing our thoughts about the problem, rather than trying to fix only the problem in the external world on the level of form, without raising the level of our habitual thoughts about such problems, which is the futile approach to problem solving. The ego, or belief in separation, sponsors eagerly because it will never work. So remember, seek and do not find is this mantra. So it will give you seeming answers to problems, but the caveat is that they'll never work, because if they truly worked, then the ego would be threatened and the ego would be undone. So ego requires problems in order to continue in your mind as a seemingly separate entity. So to solve any problem, we must recognize that the origin of all our problems is in our minds. This recognition, which literally means to know again, recognize means to know again, automatically takes us to a higher level of thinking, and opens the way for the reinterpretation of everything we perceive under the guidance of the Holy Spirit, remembrance of perfect love, which is the correct or miraculous solution to our problems. So if we look at timeline, very clear here that we need to raise up to our thinking up to a higher level by letting go of the psychological and emotional attachments to a particular situation. Then we allow our minds to go up a level or two into this awareness, maybe temporarily, but to get access to this, a glimpse of this, and then the mind can come back in this changed state and perceive the situation differently, and inspire conscious thoughts and words and actions. But it's very clear that another level is required from that diagram. So to solve any problem, we must recognize that the origin of all our problems is in our minds. Right? So the origin is not physical, because the physical, this level of the world, the physical experience we have in the world, the bodies, is a product of mind. It's a product of a thought system that is false, that tells us that we are separate, we are individuals, we're unique, we're bodies, we're really here in this world, the world really exists as do our bodies. And therefore we've got to respond to them if they really exist. So we make it all real in our perception. So this recognition, which literally means to know again, automatically takes us to a higher level of thinking and opens the way for the reinterpretation of everything we perceive under the guidance of the Holy Spirit or remembrance of perfect love.
I've just realized
Mhm.
after looking at the diagrams about 1 million times, I just realized the rings in the integrative model are the, when you view something differently from another position, don't you? You have a knowing, and then you have another knowing on the same subject, then you have another knowing on the same subject. And I always used to ponder that, how interesting it is that I keep seeing the same things and understanding it differently. And they're the rings, aren't they? And I saw this playing out yesterday with my son. He got really stressed about something, and I was pondering how to get him up to the next level, so he could see it differently. And so I took him out for a walk and just let him talk and talk and talk. And then he came back and he slumped down into the low mood again. But lucky enough, fate took a curveball, and his favorite comedian came to town, and he was able to go out for the evening and laugh and enjoy himself. And today he's at a different level, and he can see it completely differently and experiencing it completely differently. So it's interesting for me to watch that I couldn't get him to another level. He had to get himself to that higher level. But yeah, that's really helpful, the levels.
Yes.
Really interesting.
Thank you, Sally, for pointing that out, because Jonathan has never pointed out those circular rings or those cross diagonals. I only saw them when you, Sally, pointed them out. Give so much more significance to that diagram. You actually can't see them. You can only see the white cross.
Yeah, it's very subtle. And the integral models are deep. You can take a deep dive into that. There's a lot to it. There's lines, there's quadrants, lines, levels, states, and types. So there's a whole body of knowledge to study. But essentially, it's saying that there are these levels that superimpose on the quadrants, and so you can go from level to level within the quadrants, and then you're going to get different experiences. The subjective interior eye will have an experience at a certain level, and then that's going to be reflected at an objective in the exterior in an objective way. And once you understand the concept, can you see how we've created worlds for ourselves? So this is a circular world. So if you identify yourself as a body, and that's your belief, and then you've created the objective reality that seems to mirror that, then you live in that world, and it's a quite a limited, contracted world. This little world, and then the only way out of those problems within that world is to go beyond that world, go to another world. So he talks about the real world. You start perceiving the real world. Well, that's bump your by letting go of your belief in this limited world that you've miscreated. You then allow your mind to transcend, and it must go up. It goes up a level or two. And now you have a different thought system, and a different world starts getting created for you because of that.
I guess what happens sometimes is like what Christine was talking about, that you can be with somebody that's got on a lower ring, on a lower contour, and you don't want to be dragged down to that contour, but it's quite difficult to maintain your level of thinking in that environment with somebody.
Yes, that
Hmm.
is exactly what I'm experiencing. And in
Yeah.
other spheres, he's intellectually very bright and very clever. And I'm not there. I don't have the gift of speech. And I can see my own limitations in other areas.
And that's actually catered for in the integral model. So
Yes,
he calls it a line of development. You know, in one developmental line, say intellectual, Steve is maybe quite high, and
yes,
you not quite as high. But on
yes.
another line, say spiritual understanding, you know, you'd be higher than him. And so you have these lines of development as well, which can vary depending on the individual. Someone might be very high intellect, but very low spiritual intelligence.
And so we need to respect how we learn from each other and how we're all one. And there's no better than. We're all equal, actually.
And don't we
Yeah.
complement each other? So one person that speaks a lot and somebody else is quieter, or somebody else is very in their mind, somebody else is more in their hearts. Don't like the opposites attract to create a whole?
Yeah.
Hmm.
And then you can see your deficit and work on yourself so that you don't become codependent.
Hmm. Yeah, so it's all perfect. It's a perfect learning opportunity for both of you, if you perceive it that way. And you got to ask for the guidance continuously. It's okay, so you know, what is the right way here? I mean, get out of my own way. Really, you know, not my will, but thy will be done. You know, what is for my highest good and for Steve's highest good?
Yes.
If you genuinely, sincerely ask that question, and you will be shown, the way will come. That will be a higher way for both of you. So that might bump you both up out of the the limited paradigms that you're currently in. Bump you both up a level or two.
We often have those moments of this magical kind of wow, wow, wow. And that's what makes it worth going forward, because there is light shining. So, you know, it's fertile ground to work with. And I think in many ways he is working on himself, but in his own way, and I have to respect that. I'm too fast and he's too slow.
Is that a deficit? Is that just not a judgment? Are we not all perfect exactly how we are?
Well,
That's our view.
At the moment, it feels like a judgment because I really, really, really struggle to slow myself down, to be mindful, to meditate. And it's all part of this program of slowing me down because I'm too fast. I mean, I was having a conversation with Jonathan and my son, being an actuary. You actually can't talk to him because he's streaks ahead. He lives in another dimension. And I can't ever expect him to come home to his mom and talk my language. I actually have to let him go because, I mean, even living with Jonathan for a week and seeing how hard he works, this generation gap, my mouth was hanging open every morning when I'd come in here and see he's been working all night.
Well, that's not normal.
No,
but
that's
yeah, I get it. It's a different reality, isn't it?
That's what my son must be doing, and I've never seen it because he lives in his own home with his own wife. But having acknowledged that, you realize how you make assumptions all the time, and you don't give that person the freedom to be who they really are. You try and limit them to your little world that I've created. And there's a huge time gap from 50, 48, 50, and 74. So, you know, it's quite hard to marry the two together.
Yeah, well, unconditional love. You see, what unconditional love does is it helps you to go out of that limited level of thinking,
I hope so.
and start ultimately going, beyond all of this. Unconditional love transcends this. Like if you can bring that in, it's going to raise you up the levels into a very high state of mind.
Yes,
Where
yes.
there's no judgments, there's none of that personal
Yes.
self. See, the Christine self coming in and judging things according to the program of Christine and your life experience and what you've learned. And we all have these programs running. And unconditional love transcends that and says, can you just be present right here, right now, without any of that conditioning, and then respond accordingly from that state of pure presence. That's an unconditional. That's why it's called unconditional. There's no conditions.
And the power of love. I am love presence, which I find very hard to access. I mean, Steve has got this amazing love. He's got this huge heart. He laughs a lot. People love him. And it's demonstrating to me how I'm not like that with my son. I'm very serious, and he's very serious. And no emotional, social skills at all. That's now it's very, Steve has taught me a lot.
Yeah.
About unconditional love.
And no doubt there's more lessons to learn. So I think if your prayer is, there's no problem here. This is a learning experience for me and him. And just show me, Holy Spirit, what is the, what can I learn from this? What's the lesson? Guide my thoughts, words, and actions. And what you really want is unconditional love. That's what we all want.
Yeah.
We all want to learn that. How do we access the power of unconditional love? Well, these experiences are there to teach us. So, if you view him as he's the perfect opportunity to learn that in the short time maybe that you have left with him, and you embrace it fully, you might be astonished at what happens.
Yes, very well put.
But you got to let go of the Christine self that's fearful. Oh, I'll get sucked in. Oh, the past, because this has happened in the past, and that's all fear.
Yeah.
Be honest, it's fear. It's not unconditional love. Does that mean you're a doormat and do everything that he wants you? Not necessarily. But this is your own learning. Okay, so what would unconditional love do? That's the question. Someone asked me to remove all of her content from hundreds of hours of material on the online on YouTube or from the course. I was like, sorry, I can't do that. That's a massive, I have to say no. I just don't have the time. That's a massive job to do that. That's not just a simple, I'll do it in 10 minutes, 20 minutes. That's like hours and hours and hours of work to go and edit all those videos out. So, you have to say no then. It wouldn't be unconditional love to acknowledge that request, because it would be people pleasing, and it would be pandering to the ego's need for special treatment and private thoughts and all of that. And from my own point of view, that takes a huge amount of time from me and other things I'm doing and family that would be better spent on other things. So sometimes you have to say no.
Yeah.
And so there is a unconditional love. Doesn't mean you just say yes to everyone and everything. There's discernment, there's guidance, and what it actually is for the highest good. And it's learning that. And this is why we have relationships, to learn, okay, well, how does this actually work in practice? Unconditional love, but with discernment. So, I don't, too often, unconditional love and being a doormat and a victim get confused.
Yes.
Don't they? Women particularly do this. Oh, well, I'll just give and give and give, but actually I'm I'm not really honoring myself, and I'm actually just people pleasing, and so there's a resentment, and there's a negative that's sitting there, and that's not unconditional love. So if you can do it in a really expansive, open, happy, joyful way without resentment, then that's unconditional love. If you can't do it that way, and there's going to be a resentment and a grievance, then rather don't do it.
Yeah.
I think that's really that would be my kind of take on it and guidance. And like, if I can't do this unconditionally and freely and give freely, then let me not do it. We might actually have a look very briefly. Remember, we did these in the course, the pathways.
Well,
I think it might be well worthwhile to have a look at these pathways again. So 7th to 9th pathway are all about interacting with people. So I act freely when I'm tuned in, centered, and loving. But if possible, I avoid acting when I'm emotionally upset and depriving myself of the wisdom that flows from love and expanded awareness. So maybe, Christine, would you like to read that? 9th pathway.
I act freely when I'm tuned in, centered, and loving. But if possible, I avoid acting when I am emotionally upset and depriving myself of the wisdom that flows from love and expanded awareness. Okay, so read the whole thing.
You may as well. Maybe Sally can help you out with a paragraph or two.
When you are emotionally upset, you energize the addictive patterns of other people who are also caught in the lower levels of consciousness.
And there you see the levels idea again.
Bad vibes, like measles, are contagious. Every time you act with anger, resentment, or fear, you reinforce the addictions from which we all wish to be liberated. You may have heard the story of the boss who yelled at his employee, who then went home and fought with his wife, spanked the child, and kicked the cat. The story demonstrates that negativity is like an infectious disease that seeks to spread through society from one person to another. To avoid adding to the sum total of bad vibes in the world, unless you are in immediate physical danger, wait until you are tuned in, centered, and loving before you act. When you give yourself this time to contemplate your perceptions and course of action, wisdom may lead you to choose a more effective course of action.
Okay, so any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, my throat closing in on me is my best alarm signal that I'm emotionally upset or overwhelmed or caught up in an addictive pattern of other people. And I just get fearful and my throat closes up, and that's when I must withdraw and get centered and strong again so that I can offer my wisdom again. Otherwise, I start crumbling.
Yeah,
that
that's great mind training with Steve, because you might have to know when to withdraw. Say, okay, I need my own time now. I need to restore myself into this loving, centered, unconditionally loving states. What he's really talking about, centered and loving, so that I can give. So that I can come back and I can be really, giving, and I can do things in the right way, that there's no resentment. And if I find myself going into any kind of negative emotion, then, okay, maybe you just say, okay, enough. Then you don't live with them. I can withdraw, I can go and do a process, join a session, do a meditation, restore myself, and then, engage later. So, the 7th pathway is saying, you should engage with people. I open myself genuinely. Sally, do you want to read that one for us?
I open myself genuinely to all people by being willing to fully communicate my deepest feelings, since hiding in any degree keeps me stuck in my illusion of separateness from other people. Very appropriate. As you begin to upgrade your addictions to the status of preferences or eliminate them entirely, you will discover that you will no longer have anything to hide from other people. It then feels good to be able to communicate with other people exactly what you are experiencing. As you grow into higher awareness through eliminating your addictions, you'll be able to drop all the deceptive and manipulative games you have been playing. When you're not completely open and truthful to everyone, i.e. when you're trying to hide some of your inner thoughts and feelings from them, you perpetuate and strengthen the illusion of separation from others. One of the ways to escape this wall of isolation is to communicate. Well, here I am. This is what my addictions are making me feel here and now. I accept myself, including my addictions, as being on an unfolding journey towards a more peaceful state of loving awareness. If you are at the beginning of your journey into higher awareness, you'll find it helpful to communicate quickly and openly with others so that your relationships are always upfront. Remember, hiding separates, openness unites. You will realize that open communication of your innermost feelings helps you and other people to be free of the addictive programming of the ego, which in the long term, in the long run, only produces unhappiness, isolation, and alienation. Yeah, what that brings up in me is what tends to happen with me is somebody will, I think I'm being really open, then somebody will say, have you got something to share on that? And then my mind goes blank. I can't even think what I want to share. Yeah, it's really interesting. Somebody asked me a couple of days ago, do you want to talk about it? And I go, no, I think I'm fine about that. And it's only when I'm away from them and I go and think about it, I go, actually, there was something I need to talk about. But now I feel uncomfortable because I've got to say it again tomorrow and start that conversation again. But yeah, old pattern.
So that's the one pathway. And then the other, so we're just seeing the seventh pathway is to be open and in your communication to people. The ninth pathway seemingly contradicts that in some ways, doesn't it? So then he talks about how to manage those. So do you want to read the next one, Christine? Seventh pathway and the ninth pathway.
The seventh and ninth pathway puts you in an interesting predicament. Seventh pathway tells you to communicate your deepest feelings, and the ninth pathway advises you, if possible, not to communicate until you are perceptive, centered, and loving. What this means is that you're always ready to be completely open and to communicate with people. But if you are caught in the grip of a disturbing emotion, you give yourself a little time to let go of your addiction that's disturbing you, rather than acting out the fight or flight feeling that's been triggered immediately.
Yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah.
So give yourself the time. You can take a time out.
Yeah, you're restricting yourself that you're feeling a bit threatened and your body's sort of caving in, or you're blanking out because you can't remember what you actually need to say. So it is better to pull back a bit and give yourself time to let go of your addiction rather than acting out the fight or flight. Consciously.
Yeah, having the wisdom to know, this is where the mind training comes in. So you have the awareness of your own mental and emotional state to know when you need to do this. When a timeout is required, it's not an avoidance. You're not being unconditionally loving. You're just giving yourself some time to get into the right state of mind, which is ultimately your only job in this world, and of course the Miracles is telling us your only job is forgiveness or letting go, which is letting go of what's not helpful, letting go of negative thoughts and emotions that are not helpful. So moment by moment, it's about managing your mental and emotional state. And if you notice that you're out of alignment and that you're not able to be unconditionally loving and giving, then take a time out. Take a break, say, okay, I can correct that, so that you do the spiritual work necessary to let it go, and then you can re-engage. And then he says, part of your growth, do you want to carry on, read the last one? So higher awareness.
Part of your growth into higher awareness will be determined by how perceptively and how skillfully you handle these two pathways. You can use the ninth pathway to delay your responses to people long enough to give the other pathways an opportunity to rescue you from the negative emotions arising in you. Always remember that you cannot put off for long making upfront communication of your deepest feelings if you wish to be conscious, receptive, and loving. Suppressed feelings act like a cancer in your mind that malignantly spreads, distorting your perceptions and bringing you alienation and suffering. You thus learn to use the seventh and ninth pathways to create more and more aliveness and beauty in all your relationships with other people. Yes, that's very helpful.
Very.
Some good stuff in this. We don't do it that often, but it's there in your course manual. You can refer to it again and again. It might be a practice. Say, well, every day I'll read one of these and I'll just try and apply one pathway for that day. If that resonates with you. I mean, there's already a lot in the program. That's why I haven't done it, because like, okay, and there's another thing. We're just working with the course lessons. If you work with the course lessons and you really let go in the way Yeshua's recommending, then you're going to be applying these teachings. But sometimes, just what I like about this is he's talking about the practicality of actually relating to people, how this works in practice, and how to do it skillfully. So there, yeah, it's in your course manual, pages 25 and 26. Read it. Sorry, 7 pathway 25. Read it, meditate on it, read it again, read it every day, and commit yourself to learning this. And you've got the opportunity to do that through your relationship with Steve. Perfect opportunity to learn, become maybe much more skillful than you've ever been in your relationships, which is something to be welcomed and embraced. Okay, so any thoughts, comments, questions on that?
It reminds me of the contours on the other model as well, that every time you read it, you're hearing it differently. I have read it before a few times, but differently this time. It really helped, Dean, having you here and giving examples as well. It really just makes it real and understandable.
Yes, otherwise it's just words that you actually never get to apply. When you actually put it into practice with an example, then a lot of people relate to that example and see their own interpretation.
And that's what life's about. And so,
even that trigger word of the cancer. I know that resentment is one of the symptoms that bring on cancer, and it's suppressed feelings. That's what life alignment is all about. Bringing up emotions and your uncomfortable feelings so that you can let them go. So if you have a habit of always suppressing, which my mother did, and she had liver cancer, so she must have had a lot of anger, according to Chinese medicine. And I've been very aware of this with my marriage, of not suppressing my emotions and coming out with them. Obviously, often with explosions that cause lots of eruptions and stuff. And now I've met a man who, he's more feminine than he's masculine, because he expresses his feelings. And with his drama, with his credit card yesterday, and came and he expressed it, and he actually said to me, I need to get this out of my system and I need to talk about it to you. So he was actually doing his own therapy because his wife died of cancer. Whether he's learned from what she was suppressing, or whether I've already given him a lot over the last 2 years, I was just mind blown by what he was saying. So I made myself available and I just listened, and I didn't tell him what to do or how to think or anything. And then he said, now I have to go home, and I realize I must just do nothing. Which triggered me into thinking, no, you should bloody well look at your financial situation and pay your telephone bill and blah, 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 blah. There was the masculine coming in with all the solutions, which I suppressed because actually he was doing what we're learning here. Switch your mind off and the problem will take care of itself. Otherwise, you'll get into another panic state and get more helpless and more pathetic, and then I'll come down like a ton of bricks on him. Whereas if we both withdraw and do nothing, allow the higher spirit to come in and help us, or help him.
Yeah. So that, there's a deep intuitive wisdom. You're saying, okay, this is what I need. And then your ego reacts to that and says, no, you've got to get into problem solving mode. Solve the problem on the level of the problem. Exactly what this quote is saying, which is a temptation, isn't it? The ego's always trying to get you to do that. But it's not actually helpful, because it's really entrenches the problem, makes the problem real. And that's when problems stick around for a long time. Because then the ego goes, okay, well, we can just work the problem. It's going to cause a lot of pain and grief, and it loves those emotions. Those emotions make it real. So it doesn't have an incentive to solve problems. In fact, it's incentive to keep the problems. But it'll try and convince you that it's trying to solve the problem, but it's actually not.
Yeah.
The solution lies at another level of thinking, which requires that you let go of your current perception of the situation. This is why the letting go is how you go to another level of thinking. You open yourself up to a different perception of it.
That suppressed feelings act like cancer in your mind that malignantly spreads, distorting your perceptions and bringing you alienation and suffering. How
it is. Oh, very. And that is, as you said, the source. People get cancer for this reason.
Yeah.
First, anger. It gets internalized, and then that gets manifested physically.
That was a good phrase that you just said, Christy.
Sorry, what did you say?
That was a good phrase you just said about the suppressed feelings spread canceriously around the body or whatever. Is that a phrase you were just reading, or is that something you know?
That's pathway.
It's suppressed feelings act like a cancer in your mind, malignantly spreads, distorting your perceptions and bring you alienation and suffering.
All right.
But I mean, that's the work that we do with healing with kinesiology and energy work, it's making us aware of our feelings and our thoughts and correct them on those levels before they manifest in the physical body. Because once the cancer starts spreading in the physical body, you may as well give up, because to go the chemo route and the whole allopathic medical route of cancer.
Well, no, I disagree with that. You don't give up. It's never too late. I mean, Anita Mojani's case was proof of that. You know, the cancer had almost killed her. Its organs were shutting down. I was saying she's got hours to live, and it could all reverse through a correction on the mind level.
Yes.
So it's never too late. But yeah, ideally you want to catch it soon. Whenever those feelings arise, then let them go. You know, you don't suppress them. You're aware of them, you bring them up, you release them. And that's what we're studying. That's what we the art of letting go is all about. That. Bring them up, you know, don't allow them to dwell there, let them go, so they're released. So they don't remain in your energy system. And then cause the havoc that they do. Diseases like cancer, any autoimmune disease, you know, diabetes, cancer, strokes, heart attacks, anything where there's a sort of a self-attack going on, you know, is related to toxic thoughts and emotions that got internalized in the body.
Yeah, even arthritis, you know, what I'm experiencing.
Yeah.
Eating yourself up with your own anger and frustration.
Yeah, it's a self-attack. It's an expression of a self-attack going on. So if you understand that, well, just drop the attack. You know, drop the attack thoughts. You don't have to attack yourself. Let that go and learn to love yourself. And then these conditions can miraculously clear up or get a whole lot better than they ever were. David Icke had, you should listen to one of his videos. He had bad arthritis at some point in his 60s. I think he was quite young. At the point where he was struggling to walk, and he remembers walking through Heathrow and just, really struggling to walk. And then he just said, "This is crazy. I've got to do something about this." So he used his mind to let go of the belief that was behind it, that he was a victim, that he could get sick and old, and dropped all of that, and it's fine. He said, "I didn't need drugs. The arthritis just disappeared." So all of these conditions are correctable if we correct our mind. And so I looked at from, again, integral model. Well, you were at a level of quite a low state of really believing in attack thoughts, guilt, fear, sin, attack. So that's a low level. Then you experience, say, a disease like cancer, because it's happening. The problem is occurring because your thinking is at that level. So the way of healing it is not to take chemo and try and solve it at the same level. That's ridiculous. Just bump yourself up a level or two. Let go of the thoughts and the feelings that led to the manifestation of the symptoms, and then you have to go higher. You expand your horizon. Now you live in another world, and then the body, because the body is symptom of the mind, the body will recalibrate itself to that higher level, as happened with Anita Mojani. She went from a very low state to a very high state, and her body took a bit of time to catch up, 5 weeks, but 5 weeks is not a long time for it to catch up and then manifest her new reality, which was healed, healthy. So her body then was a reflection of that. And so the cancer had to go because it no longer, when there's a misalignment, then if you bring the mind into higher alignment, then the body will follow, and our external circumstances will follow, because it's just a projection of the mind. And that is that this is miraculous manifestation, if you like. You're not manifesting in the sense of the ego sense of the word, but it's the Holy Spirit doing the correction, and then you allow the material world the body and anything external to you, to catch up to that reality and to reflect it. And it's an allowing rather than a forcing. See, so the ego mind is very like, no, if I want something to happen here, I have to do X, Y, and Z. So it's very cause effect based, linear time, and it's me, the little I doing it. Whereas this is saying, no, you actually do nothing. You let it go. You raise yourself up through that to a higher level. And then from that level, you act. And if you get inspiration and guidance, it's now coming from an expanded level, which then, those thoughts and emotions will manifest a different reality at a higher level because it has to match. And so life is always trying. I mean, it's interesting that you study life alignment. It's always trying to align you, isn't it? You're always in alignment with whatever your thoughts and emotions are. That's going to align you with a physical reality. And then the way to change that, don't try and change the physical, change the mind, and then allow the physical to catch up and align. That might take some time, but if you guide it, then your thoughts and your words and your actions will be guided to allow the realignment to happen. It's like a recalibration. And then things change on the physical level, but it's all being led by the thoughts and emotions, the deeper I experience, rather than being led by I think I want a X, Y, Z result, which is still that there's no shift in mindset that's happened. So whether you look at it from a Course in Miracles point of view or integral model or life alignment, it's all the same thing, isn't it? Saying the same thing. The models are just useful ways of perspectives on these ideas. So we can kind of get a handle and maybe get a different perspective, which can be helpful. Okay, so let's go back to our and go by ego's interpretation of any problem as real and unsolvable will often lead to us hearing specific guidance. So we say to ourselves, this is unsolvable, then of course we block any kind of solution. But if we understand that there's no order, difficulty, and miracles, provided we change our minds, then we can get the specific guidance that comes from that the Holy Spirit can give us to solve the apparent problem on the level of form. And that may be to do nothing. You do nothing and it'll just resolve itself because there never really was a problem. Maybe you need to take some action, but it's coming now from a state of mind that is actually beyond the level of the problem. So it's inviting, that state of mind invites then a higher solution to come in. So there's a discussion session that you can listen to on yesterday's workbook lesson and text reading, The Gifts of Fatherhood. There is only really one problem we're ever experiencing, which is the problem of separation. There's only one answer to this problem, which is letting go of the belief in separation or ego and accepting at one-ment with our source and our mighty companions. And so this leads us very nicely into today's lesson. Key message of the section of the text yesterday's was that we're extended by love, and we can extend this awareness of love to all our seemingly human companions on our journey through this world. Only when we do extend this love freely and without limit, we come to know that our source is also unlimited, and it gives its gifts of love, peace, and joy as freely and generously to us. So it's all learning. An opportunity to learn. Every relationship is a holy encounter. It's an opportunity for a holy relationship to learn this unconditional love and learn to let go of that which blocks you from unconditional love, that blocks to the awareness of love's presence. Okay, so all of that leads us nicely into today's lesson. Continuation or extension of yesterday's, which was all about problems. This is let me recognize my problems. Yesterday's was let me recognize the problem so it can be solved. Today's is a more advanced version of the lesson. Let me recognize my problems have already been solved. have been solved. So let's dive into that, shall we? So, lesson 80. You recognize my problems have been solved. So, Sally, if you can read number 1 for us in the original and alternative version, please.
You're willing to recognize your problems. You will recognize that you have no problems. Your one central problem has been answered and you have no other. Therefore, you must be at peace. Salvation thus depends on recognizing this one problem and understanding that it has been solved. Therefore, awakening depends on recognizing this one problem and understanding that it has been solved. One problem, one solution. Salvation is accomplished. Awakening is accomplished. Freedom from conflict has been given you. Freedom from conflict has been given to me. Accept that fact that you are ready to take your rightful place in God's plan for salvation. I accept this fact and I am ready to take my rightful place in perfect love's plans for my awakening.
Yeah, so any thoughts on that one? What's he saying in summary of this?
It wasn't so much the thinking as the feeling. I've got real relaxation down my knees, down my legs, and my hands, and around the wrists, around the palms. It's like, thank goodness, it's all been solved. I can relax. Yeah, nice feeling.
Very nice. And so when you're in that feeling, then you're in the solution, not the problem.
Yeah.
And then you've raised yourself up to another level of thought and emotion. So on that integral model, you just bumped yourself up by accepting that a number of levels. And now on that level of reality, there's solutions that are possible. Things can manifest that were not possible on a lower level. And so you've just opened the door for things to come in and give you a different experience of reality that now is in alignment with this state of, well, there is no problem, there's only the answer. And then you get guidance. If there's an answer on the level of form that needs to come, then miraculously, synchronistically, you just get the guidance, things unfold, and it comes because you're already there energetically. And this is what miracles are all about.
Yeah, that happened to me today, actually, as it does with the lesson. I had a conversation with my ex-husband over the last 2 days about something that we do together work-wise. And then he messaged me again this morning as though we'd never had those 2 days conversation. And I went, oh dear, really? He's definitely going that Alzheimer dementia route. And initially I went, oh, I don't really want to take over the whole business. And then I let it go because of the lesson. I was able just to relax. And the Holy Spirit just reassured me that I don't need to take it over. I can just get a management agency in. And it's like, oh, problem solved. All good. Because it could otherwise, you could be with that discomfort for months, couldn't you? Going, oh, is he going to be all right? Keep doing it. Since you've got the solution, it's like, just let it go. It's all right.
So you went into the state. This is what most people don't understand. You've got to go into the state of mind as though the problem has already been solved, even though it hasn't been on the level of form. And then on the level of form, the reality catches up and gives you the answer. And that's miraculous manifestation. That's why this is called A Course in Miracles. Whereas the ego will tell you, no, you're in a state of lack, there's a problem. Now you need to do X, Y, Z to go solve the problem, but it's doing it from its state of being in the problem, not in the solution. So then what happens is the problem gets perpetuated because you're in a problem consciousness the whole time. You're trying to fix it. And we wonder why it doesn't work. Because we've made the external world the reality, you see, in that instance. We've forgotten that reality is created primarily in the interior world, in the subjective world. So then the ego dictates that we have to go find the solution on the level of form, on the level of the problem, which is representative of a state of mind, and forget that actually this is just a projection of our mind. So the only solution lies in correcting our mind. Nothing so blinding as form, says Yeshua at some point in the text. Nothing so blinding as form, because it blinds you to the truth that true reality is within, in the subjective experience that we call I or we. And tells you that no, the reality lies here in the material body and all of the projections of the mind. And then it causes us to get confused. And that's what, when he talks about level confusion, that's what he means. You get level confused. You forget that the true healing lies here in the subjective self, and you associate yourself with the exterior domain and the level of body awareness, and you think that level is now reality. So you're confused then about what's reality, hence level confusion. Okay, so any other comments on that? Number paragraph 1. Happy with that?
Yeah.
Okay, so we could read it slowly, or there's about 5 paragraphs or something, so I could read it to you in a meditation slowly. So do it all in one go. What would you prefer?
Yeah, let's do it all in one go. What do you think, Christine?
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, okay. So your only problem, because then it'll be a meditation that will go for 20 minutes or something. All right, moving on to number 2 then. Your only problem has been solved. Christine, if you can read that.
Your only problem has been solved. Repeat this over to myself today with gratitude and conviction. I have recognized my only problem, opening the way for the remembrance of perfect love to give me perfect love's answer.
And that's Holy Spirit is the remembrance of perfect love. Perfect love's answer is God's answer.
I have let go of self-deception and I'm only aware of the truth. I have accepted awakening for myself by bringing the problem to the answer. And I recognize the answer because I have identified the problem.
Okay, so what's he saying here? Summary of that.
He's saying, to take on that the problem has already been solved means recognizing that there is only one problem, and it's always about opening up to perfect love's answer, which is always there. And accept awakening for myself by bringing a problem to the answer, or just allowing the answer to come in. I would have put it, maybe it'll come in the next paragraph, that it's the feeling is so important. That subjective I is about getting to the resolution by feeling that it's already done, it's solved in some way, just accessing that lovely feeling of peace and calm and love, because everything has played out as it's meant to play out. And just getting into that feeling of acceptance resolves the problem.
Yeah, well said. So spiritually speaking, the problem was that we separated from that feeling. We decided that we preferred another feeling. That's the whole problem, idea of separation. So we correct that by going back into this loving awareness. Then we correct the whole problem right there. Everything then is healed and whole. And then on the level of form, that the form reflects that. And so that, that's the way that this loving awareness then interacts in the world and leads to changes, transformations, healings, miracles on the level of form. So simple when you understand. So when you have the understanding that this course gives you, and the metaphysical understanding of what the problem is, then the answer is obvious, isn't it? But if you're confused about that, and you think that the separation is real and this is reality, then that answer is inaccessible to you. You can't accept that answer because the ego is telling you another story, saying, no, just focus on the problem and try and fix the problem on the level of the problem. And that's the state of the world. We're always trying to fix, as human beings, we're trying to fix the problems on the level of the problem. And it doesn't really work. It doesn't free us. Look at the world we've created. So much, really, it's all an attempt to solve the problems of our world. Problems of being human. And so we've invented all this big construct, society and economies and all these products and services and stuff to try and solve these problems. And yet, have we solved anything, really? The human condition remains. Sickness, suffering, aging, death remain. Drama, suffering in all of its forms carries on. So have we really solved anything by doing that? And if you're honest about it, if you're brutally honest, you see that, no, we've solved nothing. So was there any point in any of this? No, ultimately there was no point. It's all just the ego spinning its wheels around, trying to convince you that it is real and that you can find a solution within its thought system. And that's what history is about. But it was all necessary in its apparent imperfection, because it's brought us to this point now where many people are in a position to awaken, because we've gone down a track, we've done all this stuff. We have now knowledge, we have language, we have words, and we have technology that allows us to really study these ideas freely and openly and easily. It's a perfect now environment for us to learn the truth. And that is part of the universal program of this world. That it's all been designed to bring us to the point where we can learn and accept the truth. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So the at-one-ment, it's all part of a plan, and it's always perfect in its imperfection. At-one-ment is always there. The only question is, will you accept it? That's the only question, isn't it? Will I accept it now, or not? Will I deny it or accept it? I can only accept it now. I can't accept it in the past or the future. I can only accept it now. So let me recognize my problems have been solved is an acceptance of it.
The habit comes to procrastinate, accepting, because we're so attached to problem solving and drama and always another problem. So that's the habit. And when we can see it and just stay in the present with a new awareness, make the habit one of accepting the solution quicker.
Yeah. The solution is always in the subjective self. Solution lies in your thoughts and emotions. That's where the solution lies. So go there primarily. Go to primary reality, change it there, which is what you can change. It's very easy to change it back because it's just your own state of mind. You don't need anything to change externally to you to do this. That's why it says there's no order of difficulty in miracles. You can bump yourself up from a very low level to a very high level, and you can do that in a holy instant, in a moment. It's possible. So there's no order of difficulty in miracles for that reason. And then the external reality will catch up. Not necessarily instantaneously, but who knows? How did Yeshua do his miracles of healing lepers? And well, I think there was a bumping up. He bumped people up to another level of reality, and then instantaneously the body adjusted and the healing happened because the body adjusted to the new level of that person's healed state of mind. And it happened in real time, immediately. Okay. So any other thoughts on number 2? Happy to move to number 3. Accepted, let go of self-deception. I'm only aware of the truth now. I recognize the answer because I've identified the problem. So that's interesting, isn't it? I can recognize the answer because I've identified the problem. So we still have to acknowledge the problem to accept the answer.
You can't make it go away.
Yeah, the process of correcting the problem requires I acknowledge, okay, the problem is separation. I believe I've separated, but the answer is that I haven't really separated. There's a correction. By doing that, we shift from the one level of acknowledging the problem and making it real into another where we've corrected it and we realize there is no problem. But the recognition of the problem, that's where it starts. David Hoffmeister said yesterday, recognize you have one problem. It's a perceptual problem. And then you can invite the answer. Okay, well, then if I understand what the problem is, the answer becomes obvious. The answer lies in acceptance. Recognize the answer because I have identified the problem. You see how these two lessons, yesterday's and today's, work hand in glove. You must recognize it and then say, okay, but now I recognize the problem is separation. That's at a lower level. I accept the answer, which is the one-ment that there is no separation, but I'm still in this loving awareness. I go there, I stay there for a while, and then I will get the guidance. I'll get thoughts, words, actions that are inspired now, which are part of correcting the mind and raising it up to the new level. That's on the same level now as your higher thoughts and emotions. Okay. So number 3.
You are entitled to peace today. I am entitled to peace today. A problem that has been resolved cannot trouble you. A problem that has been resolved cannot trouble me. Only be certain you do not forget that all problems are the same. I do not forget that all problems are the same. Their many forms will not deceive you while you remember this. Their many forms will not deceive me while I remember this. Problem, one solution. Accept the peace this simple statement brings. I accept the peace this simple statement brings. Yeah, no problem.
So simple. I just accept the peace. I stay in that peace, and then see what happens. And then the problems resolve themselves one way or another. You might be guided to do something or act. As you said, we'll just get a management agent. Okay, well, it comes from a state of mind of accepting peace rather than accepting the problem as your reality.
Mm.
So you see what you're doing, you're collapsing time. You're saying, well, no longer am I caught up in the cause effects linear timeline. Oh, I think in order to solve my problem, I need to do this and this and this, and there's a whole series of cause and effects to get to the solution. I'm actually going whoop up here, helicopter view, and from that perspective, that from the higher level is accessible. You can see it. It becomes obvious. So you raise yourself out of the linear time from that higher perspective, then you can see down the line, the answer to the problem, and then that comes into your awareness now, and then you go back down onto this timeline, onto this point in the timeline with that awareness. And then you can solve the problem. So you just time traveled effectively, you see? Ship, up we go, and you can see it from that perspective, like a helicopter view. Oh, I can see the answer. Then I come back and I drop back into here, and that changes my thoughts and emotions and perceptions about the situation. And I now have the guidance to say and do whatever I need to do to allow that reality to play out and manifest. So you've just done a bit of time traveling. You see that? It's quite profound. And that's how you collapse linear time, ultimately. Because the shorter that gap gets, the less of an interval, the more you realize, well, time is not necessary. In fact, the answer and the problem are simultaneous. The highest level, there is no problem. This gap is caused because we don't want to accept the truth.
Just remembering it in the moment, isn't it? And taking
but it's so simple. It's brilliant. I mean, the metaphysics of it are so simple and yet brilliant. It's just to remember that we're not caught up in linear time. We can go and we can access the answer right now, and then allow that answer to download into our mind and give us the words and the actions that then allow that answer to unfold. See, so you're going, okay, there's the result. So let me go and let that result, future result, seemingly future in linear time, pull me forward. Pull me into its reality. And that's what miracles are all about. It's much, way more powerful than if you just try and solve the problems on the level of form. Well, I've got a problem and I'm on the red timeline, and now the ego tells me I've got to do this, X, Y, and Z are within the timeline in order to get to to B. Start at A, X, Y, Z have to happen to get to B. Whereas this says, no, actually B's already there, the answer's already there. Just go above your perception of the problem and acknowledge that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you want to summarize that briefly for us, Sally? What's he saying in number 3?
The answers are in the piece. So just take myself back into the piece, and there's no longer a problem, and I am in alignment with the solution.
Yeah. And then the solution, you trust that the solution on the level of form will come because you're there on the primary level of reality is this in the integral model, this subjective self. So if you get the primary right, then the secondary must follow. But there's faith required in it. You know, scientific materialist, someone who's obsessed with the body and the material world, can't do it because it rocks their whole belief system. Their belief system is opposite and says, no, this is primary reality. And thoughts and emotions and states of mind, this is all, it's kind of woo-woo, and, you know, none of this is really real, doesn't really exist. You know, I'm only focused on what is tangible.
It's amazing these sessions are so helpful, and they're so deeply helpful. It's amazing that we could have so many sessions like this, isn't it?
Well, it just shows you the depth of the truth. You know, it's like deeper levels of significance. That's the hallmark of a true teaching, that you can study it and study, and you can go deeper and deeper into it, and it unfolds more, it reveals more as you go deeper into it. And that's really the nature of the course, and of any true teaching, that you can really, you know, explore it and unfold it, and you know, something else comes every time you look at it. And I think, you know, the combination of these diagrams and the text, it just sort of, it does something mentally and emotionally, doesn't it? It allows you to get it maybe on another level.
Well, I
just point to the
so.
truth.
Otherwise, I would forget it all.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trusting that I'm getting it on another level. Otherwise, I will forget it all.
No, it's like you internalize it. These systems are about internalizing it, really accepting it. So you get it, and it's there. Something's transmitted it, and it's now in your mind. So, you know, just trust. It permeates in. And I've seen it with Sally. You know, it's like, Sally, you've done hours and hours and hours of this, and it's just kind of percolated in to your awareness. So it starts to become like your default operating system. Windows just operates in the background. You know, you don't have to run commands or anything. It just happens. The same idea. Just default operating system is getting reinstalled, a new one, higher version. So instead of Christine 1.1, it's now Christine version 4.5. That's, you know, software produces the Holy Spirit. That's upgraded it all, and it just starts to become part of the default way of operating. That's what we're trying to do. So it becomes, you know, you just do it by default. You don't have to consciously think about it anymore.
And then hopefully the environment around me will change and the triggers will disappear.
Yeah, that should happen. But, you know, remember, the environment is designed to challenge you. So that's how you undo your ego. So if more challenges come up, don't be disappointed. Welcome them. Say, okay, well, that's good. I've resolved that one. But something else comes up. Okay, but remember, it's the same approach to solving the problem. Always the same approach. Let me use the same approach and generalize it that I used last time. So you don't make exceptions. And so to learn that, often a new problem, a new challenge is required, you see, so that you can learn that. You can learn to generalize the lesson. And as you generalize the lesson, then you're learning that this truth is always applicable, never not applicable, never an instance when it's not there.
Okay.
All right. So have a look at number 4. Hang on. Just going to okay, so whose turn is it to read? Shall I read
Me.
number 4? Yeah.
In our longer practice period today, I will claim the peace that must be ours when the problem and the answer have been taught together. In my longer practice periods today, I will claim the peace that must be mine when the problem and the answer have been brought together. The problem must be gone because God's answer cannot fail. The problem must be gone because perfect love's answer cannot fail. Having recognized one, you have recognized the other. Having recognized one, I have recognized the other. The solution is inherent in the problem. You are answered and have accepted the answer. I am answered and have accepted the answer. You are saved. I am saved. I am free.
So any you want to give a little summary of that? What's he saying in that paragraph?
He's saying I claim the peace. So going into the peace, because the solution is already in the problem, and the answer will come. And I am free. It frees me up from attaching to the problem or the answer.
Solution is inherent in the problem. Very, very, very powerful idea, that, isn't it? Inherent in every problem. So if you encounter any problem in your life, immediately you go, okay, well, the solution's already here. It's inherent in the problem. I've just got to see it that way. Just got to correct my perception. If I'm in a problem consciousness, then I've got to correct that and go into the solution. And the solution lies in changing your mind about it and just accepting the peace that's already there. It's so simple. And what needs to happen on the level of form will come. You go like, could life be so simple? I mean, thank you, Yeshua. He's giving us this extraordinary problem-solving technique, making it so simple for us. And only your ego's stubbornness can refuse such a simple answer, saying, well, it's so simple. All you got to do is go in to your mind, change your mind, and be at peace. Find peace no matter what. And then the solution will come. Whatever needs to happen on the level of form will come. So simple, so easy, simple, effective. But the ego, which wants to make things very complicated and difficult, say, no, it can't be that simple. No, this requires it. So this is a very complex problem. That, simple stuff like that's not going to work. So we need to engage in a whole complex story and drama to try and solve the problem on the level of form, when actually it could just be solved very simply in this inspired way. And this is the way of radical forgiveness. I'm answered and I've accepted the answer. So I feel at peace. Now that peace then allows whatever specific thoughts, words, actions that are required to come. And you will then download it and it will be given to you in the meditation, if you're in meditation, or afterwards. You know, the answers can just come at any point. I remember once I was chopping vegetables and I just got this answer to this vexatious problem of, it was related to money, and I've told the story before. It didn't happen in meditation. It happened when I was chopping vegetables. But I'd asked for an answer, and I think it was about this time actually. It would have been, because it was a year ago. So we'd done this lesson, and I'd asked for an answer, I'd asked for guidance, and then it came. And the answer was so simple. Okay, we'll just let it go. Don't worry about it. Leave it to me. Okay, that's simple enough. I don't have to do anything. I just had to accept his the lawyer's offer. I just had to send him an email, which took me 5 minutes to say, yes, okay, I accept. Boom, sorted, no problem. Could it be that simple? Yeah, so often it is.
Chopping vegetables is very relaxing, isn't it? It's a very good problem-solving place, I find.
Yeah, you're not, your mind is not, in a repetitive action like that, your mind is not having to think, is it? It's kind of a meditation. I'm just, chop wood, chop vegetables, carry water, very zen. Mind was quite calm and empty, and then it just dropped in. So it can come at any point. Don't expect, oh, well, I did a meditation, I didn't get answered, because it doesn't always work that way. And if you desire the answer, well, give me the answer on the level of form, you haven't really let go, have you? You're not trusting. It's the letting go of needing to fix it on the level of form and finding the level of peace that transcends that. So you're above the battleground, that then allows the answer on the level of form to drop in. So simple. All your problems can be solved in this way. Another way of looking at the course would be that, it's a problem-solving technique. Completely different from anything the ego can conceive of. Miraculous problem-solving. It's training you in a miraculous problem-solving methodology. That is what this course is doing, which can be applied throughout your life, every situation, every area of your life. You can apply this technique. And you wonder why more people don't study it. Like, it's the most incredible problem-solving technique. Why don't you see? We can't see that because we're blinded by the ego's addiction to the level of form and the problems that it's created. It's addicted to problems. You have to recognize that. My ego is addicted to problems, and it loves the problems. So as long as I believe in it, I'll have many, many problems because it loves them. I'm a problem addict. The Holy Spirit's saying, no, actually, you're not a problem addict. This is just a false idea, false mindset. Actually, in truth, you're addicted to the solution. Your true awareness. Addiction, possibly not the right word, but you are bound forever, for all eternity, to the solution. And you cannot, no matter how much you try and free yourself from that, you cannot. It's not possible. The solution will always be there, no matter how much you deny it. I can only thank God for that. It's like if it had been up to our egos, we would have been lost forever in the problem and never find the answer. But because of the Holy Spirit, we can find the answer quite easily and quickly. Okay, so any thoughts about number 5? Want to add anything?
I was just wondering I was wondering how Christine was feeling, having done that, finding the solution, knowing what the solution is, aligning with the solution. And because you said you're in a lot of pain, you've been sitting there for many hours. Wondered how you were. You're muted. You're muted, Christine.
You just need to unmute yourself, Christine.
It's working because the pain is not as intense as when we started. It's
Even though you've sat for 2 hours. Oh, interesting.
Yeah. But I do see a pattern that it's when I interact with other people that I get tense, and that downloading of the solution and then taking it on is what's bringing it back again and again. So I'm going to change that behavior with my fear of people. I come to the solution to my problem, just avoid people, stand alone, deal with everything myself. And I think that's my barrier. It's an unconscious rejection, fear of what I'm going to be drawn into because I can't control my people-pleasing behavior.
Yeah, but you see, this is the faith. It's like, I'm not doing it. You have to recognize that Christine can't do it. Only the Holy Spirit can do it.
So I must
So that's
ask
what it means by surrendering.
Yes, I must be open to the awareness within myself of being shown when I'm doing this. And then,
so you hand it over and you say, I can't do it. Of course you can't do it. I mean, you've proved that over and over. You'll fail. You'll get sucked into whatever the pattern is that Christine's addicted to, codependency and so on. But then you're not going into this alone. See? Do you see how you separate yourself from that awareness that is actually the answer? Because you say, well, I've got to go it alone here. I've got to solve this problem on my own. And it just gets overwhelming because how can I solve all this on my own? And how am I going to deal with this? And it's all the little self trying to work it out. Whereas in the answer, you're like, well, the great I am presence, the Christ self that I am, and the Holy Spirit, which is the Christ being able to reinterpret the world from this higher perspective, they've got it. They can handle it. Whatever the situation is, they can handle it. So it's not up to me anymore. I can abdicate. Christine can abdicate responsibility for Christine's little life and give it all over to the Holy Spirit and say, and the Christ self in you. Say, okay, well, you do it then. I clearly can't do it. Very obvious. Your life experience by now should have taught you that you can't do it on your own. Depression, anxiety, failure, misery, what he talked about yesterday, all of that will come if you try and do it on your own, because the problems seem to be overwhelming. So it's helpful. You recognize I can't do it on my own, but there is an awareness that can do it. It's not my awareness. I'm not even responsible for it. It's outside of my ego's thought system. Okay, so you want to read number 5 for us?
Me. Now let the peace that your acceptance brings be given you. Now I let the peace that my acceptance brings be given to me. Close your eyes and receive your reward. I close my eyes and receive my award. Reward. Award. All right. Okay. Recognize that your problems have been solved. I recognize that my problems have been resolved. Recognize that you are out of conflict, free and at peace. I recognize that I am out of conflict, free and at peace. Above all, remember that you have one problem and that problem has one solution. Above all, I remember I have one solution and that the problem has one solution. It is in this that the simplicity of salvation lies. It is in this that the simplicity of awakening lies. Awakening lies. It is because of this that it is guaranteed to work.
Yeah, so what's he saying there?
I like how you say, what's it say? And then you always turn off the picture so we can't tune into it. Yeah, again, it's just accepting that all the problems have been solved because they didn't exist in the first place. And yeah, they cancel each other out, don't they? They don't exist in the peace. It's guaranteed.
Yeah, because this is primary reality. See? This is why the metaphysics, understanding the metaphysics, then dovetails with the solution. Because you understand that this is primary reality. The subjective I experience of the world is primary, and the objective world is the effect. So this is cause and this is effect, not the other way around. And if you invert that, then this answer, miraculous answer, is not possible for you. Which is why he goes on and on and on about the metaphysics and getting us to understand. Okay, the I, your thoughts, your emotions, who you believe you are. This is primary. This is primary reality. And then this is secondary. This follows suit. Not the other way around. Not this is primary reality, as we've been taught in this world. The external world is primary objective reality. And the internal world of your thoughts and emotions is non-existent at the extreme of the scientific materialist paradigm, or it's not really that real, or these things don't need to be taken into account because this is primary reality. So we need to fix this. We need to put our primary focus on the external world. And that's really the world that we've invented. Is a manifestation of the belief that this is primary, the external world is primary, and this is either non-existent or very secondary, and this follows from the primary. You see, it's totally inverted. Oh, well, you have something that happens now, and then you have a thought and emotion in response, and so you react to that. So your thoughts and emotions are governed by the external world rather than the other way around. And all the Course is doing is inverting that, saying, well, you falsely believe that the objective world is primary reality and this is very secondary or non-existent. Now you must reverse that and you must make this into your primary reality and the external world into a very secondary effect of primary reality. And so you must address any problem at this level first. What's happening in my mind? What's happening in my emotions? And let me correct the problem there, and then it's gonna reflect in the external world. Okay, and that's very simple. This isn't rocket science. It's a very simple idea, very simple solution. Amazing, we have to study and train, do all this mind training to accept such a simple solution. But we do because our minds have got totally, we've gone the other way. We've got so attached to this belief system and denied this that, we need time to learn but actually everything we believed was false, and what we denied is actually the only truth. Okay, so any other comments, questions on that?
No.
All right. So, let us be determined not to correct. Christine, you want to read? The next one is just practice. He's saying, show yourself often that your problems have been solved. Repeat the idea with deep conviction as frequently as possible. Just say quickly, whenever any specific problem arises to tempt you to believe in it, let me recognize this problem has been solved. So try that for the rest of the day. This problem manifests again and it comes up in your mind. Let me recognize this problem has been solved. Drop into a space where you feel the peace that this entitles you to, and see what happens. Okay, and then final one, let us be determined. Do you want to read that, Christine?
Let us be determined not to collect grievances today. I am determined not to collect grievances today. Let us be determined to be free of problems that do not exist. I am determined to be free of problems that do not exist. This means, the means is simple honesty. Do not deceive yourself about what the problem is, and you must recognize it has been solved. I do not deceive myself about what my problem is, and I must recognize that it has been solved already. So it's just summing up that we have to just focus on problems not being existing, drop all grievances, be honest with yourself, and you will recognize that the answer is there.
Yeah. The answer lies within. You see, the only problem was your idea of separation. That was your only problem. To recognize that means the answer is obvious. Oh, well, I believed in separation and created all kinds of false thoughts and emotions and pain and suffering and distress for myself, but it's not true. The problem is solved because I've accepted at one moment. In this moment, I accepted one moment, I accept the peace back into my mind. Problem is solved. And then the manifestation on the level of form will solve itself. Maybe with your help, you might need to do something, but then you just get guided as to what to do. So it's a phenomenally powerful problem-solving technique. It's the essence of what this course is about, miracles. It's training us to be a miracle worker and solve problems in an entirely different way from what the world does. So every problem offers you the answer. And you see how powerful that makes you. Okay, problem comes along. Instead of getting stuck into problem consciousness, you go, okay, well, solution's inherent in the problem, so this offers me the answer. Great. Okay, more answer. I can go into the answer now. And that's why everything's just another forgiveness opportunity, and it's designed to connect you more deeply with your source, which is the answer. So you need not fear any problem with this mindset. You see that? Fear disappears because it's all perfect in its imperfection. You need the problem in order to recognize the answer and strengthen your awareness of that answer. The problem gives you that opportunity to do that. Okay. So any other thoughts on the lesson? Otherwise, let's meditate on it, shall we?
Yeah, that would be lovely.
Yeah, I must
So
go
I'm
at
gonna
1:15, so can we make it?
go to past. Yeah, 20 minutes. It's fine. Perfect. All right. So just making yourselves comfortable, sitting in favorite meditation posture, feet shoulder width apart. If you're sitting on a chair, back straight, cup your hands in your lap, close your eyes. And start off by taking a nice deep breath in through the nose. Breathing in, noticing how the stomach rises and the chest rises, and you clench your sphincter muscle to lock the energy in. Feel this energy rising up your spine into the crown of your head, just pausing at the top of the inhale. It's a maximal inhale breath. You scan your mind. And so just bring to mind any problem you think you have in this world. Anything that's been problematic for you, that's causing any kind of stress, any fear, any anxiety, any frustration, irritation, and so on. And you're going to work with that problem as an example of all problems. So you can solve that problem in the same way as you solve all problems. Yeshua says, if you're willing to recognize your problems, you will recognize that you have no problems. And so just exhale, blow this problem out, recognize that your problem has already been solved. And we're just going to go deeply into that answer in this meditation. Experience of that answer, because it's a universal experience. So blow away that problem consciousness, the breeze of your breath, letting it all go into the nothingness it really is. It's going, gone. Pull the lower stomach into the spine, expel the last remaining air out. Just rest here for a few moments in this deep peace and stillness, which is the answer. Now you're going to breathe in and out through your nose. Observe the breath flowing into your nostrils and out of your nostrils. Just observing the subtle sensations of the breath connects you with the answer. And just breathing in, breathing out. Notice how stomach rises and the chest rises and the subtle flow of air in through the nostrils. And you're just going to state these words, say these words aloud after me. And the gaps that I leave. I'm willing to recognize my problems. I will recognize that I have no problems. My one central problem has been answered. And I have no other. Therefore, I must be at peace. So breathe that peace in to every pore, every cell, every muscle of your body. Every part of your mind, every fiber of your being is in the peace. That is the answer. Therefore, awakening depends on recognizing this one problem and understanding that it has been solved. My awakening depends on recognizing this one problem understanding that it has been solved. One problem, one solution. My awakening is accomplished. I am free of conflict. I accept this fact. And I'm ready to take my rightful place in perfect love's plan for my awakening. So accept this fact, breathe it in, the peace, the freedom. Just to have a peaceful, tranquil mind is freedom in this world, not to be turbulated by kinds of dark, negative thoughts and emotions that disturb your peace and harm you. It's freedom from attack, freedom from pain and suffering, freedom from guilt and fear. And this is perfect love's plan for your awakening. Keep watching your breath. Let the breath just breathe you. Not really happening, just happening through you, for you, to you. Not really doing anything. Puts you into this problem-free state of mind. So repeat to yourself, my only problem has been solved. My only problem has been solved. Repeat this over and over to yourself. Gratitude and conviction. My only problem has been solved. Right now, my only problem, the one problem I have, which is separation, has been solved. Right now, in this moment, in this holy instant, as the Course would call it, because I accept the answer. I've recognized my only problem, opening the way for remembrance of perfect love. To give me perfect love's answer. That there is no separation. There is nothing else but perfect love. And that is a simple truth that is true now and for always. So I have let go of self-deception and am only aware of the truth. I have accepted awakening for myself by bringing the problem to the answer. And I can recognize the answer because I have identified the problem. Breathing in again, and claim the peace that this entitles you to. Say, I am entitled to peace today as you breathe it into every pore and cell, muscle of your body, every part of your mind, every fiber of your being is in the peace. God, I'm entitled to peace today. Problem that has been resolved cannot trouble me. I will not forget that all problems are the same. And many forms will not deceive me while I remember this. One problem, one solution. I accept the peace this simple statement brings. Say to yourself, I claim the peace. That must be mine. And the problem and the answer have been brought together. The problem must be gone because perfect love's answer cannot fail. Having recognized one, I have recognized the other. The solution is inherent in the problem. I am answered and have accepted the answer. I am free. Breathe that freedom in. Freedom to be who you are, at peace, at one with your source. Calm, peaceful, happy, joyful, connected. This is the freedom that is available to you now. So now let the peace that your acceptance brings be given to you. Say to yourself, now I let the peace that my acceptance brings be given to me. Breathe it in, embrace it. Receive your reward, which is this deep peace, feeling of contentment. Everything is okay, just as it is. So I recognize that my problems have been solved. I recognize that I'm out of conflict, free and at peace. Above all, I remember that I have one problem and that the problem has one solution. It is in this that the simplicity of awakening lies. It is because of this that it is guaranteed to work. And if any problems arise now, the ego is telling you, no, these problems are still real, they're still there. Assure yourself, my problems have been solved. Repeat the idea with deep conviction. My problems have been solved. And if this problematic consciousness comes up again, remind yourself, my problems have been solved. Let me recognize that this problem, whatever it is, has been solved. Say to yourself, I'm determined not to collect grievances today. Breathe in to anchor this determination into your awareness. I'm determined to be free of problems that do not exist. Breathe it in again. And the means is simple honesty. I do not deceive myself about what my problem is. And I must recognize that it has been solved already. And so just rest in that recognition. There's nothing else to do, nowhere else to go, nothing else to think about. Just breathe in and out through your nose, relax, and be still for a couple of minutes of deep silence and rest in the answer. The one answer to the single problem that you have. Problem is separation. The answer is at one-ment. So rest in the peace that at one-ment brings you right now. Nowhere else to go, nothing else to do, nothing else to think about for the next 2 minutes. Just breathe, relax, be still, and experience the peace that the answer brings, the peace that's been called of God that surpasses all understanding. For the next 2 minutes of deep contemplative silence. So just coming back in awareness of the body and the breath, senses and the world. And on the count of 3, you're going to open your eyes. So 1, just breathing in, noticing how the stomach rises and the chest rises. Subtle flow of air in through the nostrils, pausing at the top of the inhale. Just scan your mind again and notice any problems still lurking there. This particular problem you're working with, still there, it's problematic. Remind yourself that my problem has been solved very firmly and determinedly. My only problem in the situation has been solved. And then let it go. Exhale. And you release the idea of the problem, the energy of the problem, making the problem reality. Just blow it all away with the breeze of your breath and the nothingness that it really is. It's going, gone. Pull the stomach into the spine, expel the last remaining air out. Just rest here for a few moments in the deep peace and stillness that comes from being problem-free. And count to 2, notice the weight now of your body pressing down into the chair, your feet touching the ground, noticing what you're feeling, your hands and touching. Maybe there's a subtle taste in your mouth, smell in your nose. Breathe that in. Notice what you're hearing. Notice all these things from a problem-free state of mind, just a deep peace permeating through your awareness. Peace of God, it's been called, it surpasses all understanding. It's beyond all problems. And you can rest in that this afternoon, secure in the knowledge that this peace solves all problems. If you stay in this peace, then you are working miraculously in this world and allowing miracles to come and solve your problems for you. So it is said and so it is done. Say one more time, let me recognize this problem and all my problems have been solved. And then open your eyes. Just look around for a minute, observing various objects in the room around you. Whatever's going on from this problem-free state of mind. And making anything into a problem. Notice that your judgments make things into problems. If you simply perceive from this state of pure formless awareness, there is no problem. Perceptions come and they go, they rise, they pass away. No problem. Just allow that to happen. Stay rooted in the deeper peace, stillness that underlies all of your apparent problems. Set that intention for the rest of the afternoon and evening. So it is said, so it is done. And use today's lesson to help you to stay in this problem-free state of consciousness by practicing it frequently. Just remind yourself, let me recognize this problem has been solved. It could take you just a few seconds, or you can listen to a breath break. I've sent you a 2-minute breath break or 3-minute breath break, or you could follow the instructions I'm giving you in your Telegram and email message, which is just about a minute to practice it. So many ways of practicing. If you find any problem comes in, then in response to that temptation to make the problem real, practice today's lesson immediately. And that will remind you that your problem has already been solved and help you to experience the peace that that recognition brings, which is my wish for you. So that brings us to the end of the first part of the session. If you'd like to stay and do some text, we can do that now. Or if you have to go, then Christine, you said you have to go. That's absolutely fine.
And thank you very much. I really appreciate what you've done for me. Pretty well pain-free. So I'm a happy member.
Yeah. And you can just stay in that, use the lesson to keep you connected to this state of peace. I think that's actually that all problems. My problems have been solved already. I can rest assured in that.
Yeah, it was a brilliant.
Thank you. It's lovely.
Thank you ever so much. I've got to go as well. Okay.
Okay. Tomorrow afternoon we're going to do a late afternoon session. We've got a meeting in the morning and then some coaching with Susie. So we'll do a probably 1 p.m. So if we started at, say, 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock UK time, Sally, that should be 4 or
I'm
5.
out for the day and I'm not sure what time I'm going to be back. So I'll join in as soon as I get back.
Okay. So if I ran it maybe later, like 5 o'clock or something.
That would be better for me, but
Hmm,
yeah,
okay.
in the group.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, we haven't done an evening session. So 5 p.m.
Yeah.
UK time, 6 p.m. SA time tomorrow.
Okay, thank you
See you
very
there.
much.
Bye. Bye, Christine.
Okay. Namaste, everyone. Thanks for joining. Bye. All right. So thanks to everyone for joining. Thanks to Christine and Sally. Good session and practice well. So very powerful lesson. To be problem free in this world, it seems to have so many problems, is indeed a great gift. So I hope this session has helped you to see the power of that, to apply it in your life, to whatever problems you're currently facing. So thanks for joining, and it's me signing off for the day. Namaste.